This calm stretch of river once held one of the most important markets in the world, but nobody outside Japan remembers its name.
Here, merchants turned taxes on rice into tradable paper, inventing the modern futures contract centuries before anything like this ever happened in Chicago or London.
Here at the Dojima Rice Exchange, Osaka merchants built the first futures market, one that would quietly hold up the entire fiscal system of the Tokugawa state. Dojima wasn't just about clever traders, it was the plumbing that turned rice taxes into money, smoothed harvest risk, and eventually would carry stresses that the shogunate could not ignore. In Tokugawa Japan, most taxes and samurai stipends were paid in rice. The real budget of the state was measured in grain, not in coin. This rice flowed downriver, upriver from all over Japan into Osaka. The Tokugawa clan established a long-standing shogunate beginning in 1603, while insisting on a policy of isolating Japan from the rest of the world. And in this, we got three centers of power. Kyoto was the old imperial capital and remained the seat of the emperors. The real political power moved to Edo, what we now call Tokyo. This was run by shoguns and the samurai nobility. And Osaka served as Japan's economic center. In this strict Neo-Confucian world, merchants were considered the lowest of classes. Nonetheless, landowning lords stored their tax rice in Osaka's warehouses, and they came to rely on local merchants to sell it and advance them the cash. The problem with relying on rice as money is that its price fluctuated with the luck of the harvests, and it varied across different parts of the country. Alongside warehouses for rice, in Osaka, the Tenma vegetable market and the Zakoba fish market handled produce and seafood, therefore forming three great exchanges that anchored Osaka's role, and the city became known as the nation's kitchen. A leading merchant family turned it into Japan's financial kitchen, too. Yodoya Saburoman was a powerful early Edo rice dealer whose clan enjoyed close ties to the Tokugawa. In the early 1600s, he opened a rice market in front of his shop by a bridge that is today named for him, Yodoya Bashi Bridge. This is where tax rice from all over the country was auctioned and gradually converted into standardized paper claims. These warehouse receipts and rice bills were pieces of paper that said you can claim this much rice from this particular warehouse. Those claims started to trade on their own, becoming a currency. Over time, merchants standardized these rice claims. Instead of haggling over sacks in a warehouse, they agreed on contracts. A given amount of rice out of certain quality delivered at a set future date and price. That's a futures contract. As trade expanded and congestion grew, along with official suspicion, this street market migrated across the river to Dojima around 1697, where rice brokers and money changers clustered their warehouses and shops. That move laid the groundwork for what became the official Dojima Rice Exchange, a licensed, membership-based market with clearing functions and futures contracts run by powerful merchant houses whose influence sometimes rivaled those of the indebted samurai. The Dojima market built a whole micro infrastructure around this clearing arrangement between houses, margin deposits to absorb losses, and networks of money changers turning rice into coin and credit. On the surface, it was a way to hedge harvests and smooth income. Landowning domains could lock in prices, merchants could manage inventory risk, and the city lived on the spread. Not all of this innovation came from businessmen. There was a state role too. Confucian elites were never comfortable with the Dojima Rice Exchange. In their worldview, true value came from land and agriculture, not from trading paper claims. Watching townsmen get rich betting on rice prices looked like gambling, not governance. Yodoya's story also shows the limits of merchant power in a samurai state. His family's wealth and occasional ostentation provoked the shogunate. which eventually confiscated much of the Yodoya fortune and wiped out the debts owed to him by high-ranking warriors. A reminder that even the richest brokers at the heart of Dojima's market still operated at the pleasure of a political order that never fully accepted them. The shogunate alternated between suspicion and dependence. It tried to ban or curb speculative trading when prices spiked or food riots broke out. Yet it needed Dojima and its houses to convert rice taxes into cash and to extend credit to samurai and lords whose budgets didn't balance. So after occasional attempts to suppress the market, then the shogun would formalize it. They authorized the exchange. They set the rules. They folded this necessary evil into the official system. The real fragility appeared not when people were speculating, but when paper outran grain. As fiscal pressures mounted in the 18th and early 19th centuries, some domain officials and brokers began issuing more rice bills than there was rice in storage. Empty bills, they called them, claims on rice that did not exist. In the good years, nobody noticed. The system functioned like a kind of fractional reserve rice bank. As long as not everyone tried to redeem at once, the promises cleared. But in bad harvests, the mismatch between paper claims and real grain turned price swings into crisis. Rice prices surged, ordinary people faced food shortages, and blame fell on speculators, even though the roots lay in state and elite overissuance. By the 19th century, Dojima was no longer just a place for farmers and merchants to share risk. It had become a shadow extension of public finance. Land domains in the central regime quietly used the exchange to borrow, roll over their obligations, and disguise shortfalls with new paper rather than levy unpopular taxes or cut spending. That dependence warped regulation. When prices rose or protests flared, authorities would intervene. They would impose price controls, they'd punish a few merchant houses, announce moralistic crackdowns on gambling. But when the budget needed patching again, the same authorities loosened their grip on the market. They tolerated the practices they had just been condemning. The result was a derivatives trading system that looked regulated from the outside but was being hollowed out from within by political expediency. As Japan opened under foreign pressure and entered the Meiji era, the entire rice tax architecture began to unravel. A national paper currency, the yen, new Western style banks, and later state controls over staple grains shifted power and information away from Dojima. Osaka boomed as the industrial heartland of Meiji era Japan, but its rice exchange was sidelined and eventually folded into state bureaucracy. What's notable to us about Dojima's story is the commonality of derivative markets across cultures and time. Like Chicago's Board of Trade or other modern derivatives markets, Dojima standardized and netted future price risk. It had organized membership, rules, and centralized record keeping and a form of clearing. There were important differences, of course. Unlike its successors, Dojima remained focused on just one commodity, rice, putting it at the heart of feudal Japan's tax base and food provision, but notably it operated under a semi-hostile political regime. Indeed, the biggest difference is that Tokugawa and Meiji Japan never became a finance-led economy in the modern Anglo-American sense. The techniques of Dojima, futures, credit clearing, seeded major financial houses and banks. For example, Sumitomo was a local copper smelter that branched into finance at Dojima, setting the stage to create today's conglomerate organized around Sumitomo Mitsui Financial Corporation. But finance operated in support of trade and industrialization rather than dominating them. That's a valuable notion for today. Interest rate swaps were a huge innovation of 1980s Chicago. Today, we could probably add crypto and prediction markets to the list of regulated derivative products and exchanges. Regulation has swung from hostile, at least in the United States, to very accommodative. Are stablecoins going to become like rice futures, invisible and fragile pillars of state finance? Are sports bets, prediction controls, a sign of innovation or dangerous financialization? How sure are we that the rice is in the warehouse?